insider who's facing major heat once again. This continues to be the anybody but Shadour Sanders campaign that is being pushed by them. They want to see the local Amazon driver get an opportunity to play quarterback before Shadour Sanders. They want to see your trash man collect an opportunity to play quarterback for the Browns before Shadour Sanders. Anybody but Shadour is what is going on. Anthony Lima, this is nasty.
Listen to what he just said. Anybody but Shadour Sanders. That's not analysis. That's not draft strategy. That's a campaign. And what makes this fascinating is that Anthony Lima just said the quiet part out loud. Because this isn't about whether Shadour Sanders is good enough for the Cleveland Browns. This is about something much deeper. And the desperation in that room, you can feel it.
Like, there should be no quote-unquote competition. He's the guy that the media wants Shadour out more than anybody else. Like, that's all done. That's all done. You're looking at me like I have lobsters crawling out of my mouth.
You are saying that we are done debating whether there's going to be competition?
Are we just done debating? We have to be done debating. I mean, I guess two things. One, that there should be competition.
Now watch this pivot. The moment his co-host pushes back, Lima cycles through every possible alternative. Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins, Anthony Richardson, Ty Simpson. Notice the pattern? It doesn't matter who the alternative is. What matters is that it's not Shadour. And that list he just rattled off tells you everything you need to know about how this campaign operates. When you're willing to suggest anyone from a former MVP to a backup college quarterback, you're not evaluating talent anymore. You're working backwards from a conclusion you've already reached.
Would be is that, yeah, they're very clearly interested in looking outside who they already have to try to fill that position. With who they've signed over these last couple of years, who they still have on their roster here, what they just did yesterday and bringing in Titus Howard, it's like, okay, they're open for business here. This is all, that's something I've seen over, being in the bubble with you and then stepping outside of it for 4 days and coming back to it, it's like, all right, I see it such more clearly now. Is that, yeah, they're not impressed of anything they really see in the quarterback group.
Here's where it gets interesting. Lima admits the Browns are clearly looking outside their current roster. He acknowledges they're open for business at quarterback. They just brought in Titus Howard for a visit. The organization is screaming that they need an upgrade. But when the conversation turns to the most NFL-ready quarterback in this draft class, suddenly the standards change. Suddenly, it's about whether the team is ready to support him. That's not draft analysis. That's goalpost moving in real time.
Didn't do what they can to try to upgrade it. Whether that be Malik Willis, whether that be Anthony Richardson, whether that be just about anybody else, I mean, fine. They're going to do it. And if they can't, then yeah, it's going to be Shadour Sanders versus Deshaun Watson in training camp or OTAs, and we'll see where we go from there. Because I told you last week that I think if it's a true, real competition, it's not how I'll want it to finish. You know where I stand on it. But I think if it's a true, real competition, I think number 4 is going to end up being your starting quarterback.
Well, did you see the videos yesterday?
Pay attention to this exchange. His co-host asks a simple question. If you solve quarterback, doesn't that fix so many other problems? And Lima's response is telling. He immediately brings up Brandon Weeden and Brady Quinn, 2 quarterbacks who failed in Cleveland over a decade ago. Think about that logic for a second. The Browns have drafted poorly at quarterback in the past. Therefore, they shouldn't draft a quarterback now. That's not analysis. That's trauma masquerading as strategy, and it reveals something crucial about how this entire conversation is being framed.
Hey, take your pick of the retreads that went out there and won. Darnold, Baker, whoever. I really do. I really do.
Is it because of his size? Is it? What is it specifically you don't like?
I think part of it's his size. Part of it is his experience. Part of it is that we are not ready offensively yet to support him. Which for a lot of the Shadour fans out there, hell, you should be screaming and yelling about that about Andrew Berry too.
Well, but then that's
because we're not ready to support him. Yes, that's why I think that's part of the reason I think Deshaun Watson will end up winning the job out of camp.
So you're essentially saying that you don't have a lot of faith that they're going to be able to build an influence.
Now we get to Ty Simpson, and this is where the Anybody But Shadour campaign shows its full hand. Lima admits he's being unfair to Simpson. He acknowledges the kid seems like a nice guy, a coach's son, probably responsible. Then he says he thinks Simpson would be a disaster. One of those retreads that flames out immediately. He questions Simpson's size, his experience, whether the Browns' infrastructure can support him. Every single concern he just listed about Ty Simpson applies 10 times more to Shadour Sanders, who's actually proven himself against elite competition. But here's the thing, Lima would rather take a player he admits would be a disaster than draft Shadour Sanders. Let that sink in.
A third of their top 120 picks or whatever. Because how many picks do they have there? If they hit on a third of those guys, now you've added...
Yeah, of course.
Even more talent.
Yes. Oh, if you hit on a third, 30% is, I read it somewhere, it had to be PFF. That 30% of your draft picks, if they end up being quality starters for you over the next 3 years, that ends up being a really successful draft. And I'm willing to say, unless God forbid something horrific happens to one of these guys, like this last draft in 2025 was going to be a...
Watch this moment carefully. His co-host asks where would be the right place for Ty Simpson. Lima suggests maybe the Rams in the late 20s, maybe somewhere he could be a backup like Tyler Shuck. Then he admits Tyler Shuck and Jackson Dart aren't out of the woods either. So let me make sure I understand this correctly. He wants the Browns to potentially use the 24th overall pick on a quarterback he thinks should go in the late 20s to a team that needs a backup. And his reasoning is that the Browns aren't ready to support a rookie quarterback anyway. This is the logic we're dealing with.
Everything and couldn't win because Baker wasn't good enough.
Did he? Now, again, this is a great point, but I have to ask these questions. And I'm being unfair to Ty Simpson right now, all right? When Ryan Williams went south, who did he make look better? Now, I'm sure an Alabama fan could say somebody, hell, he made Caden Proctor look better. I mean, they had him lined up in tunnel screens for crying out loud. You could do it. There's a lot of things that I still think are nice about the young man. I'm not trying to tear him down personally. Seems like a nice young man. But I don't think that this is the right place. I think it's a waste of his time. I think it's a waste of our time.
So where is it the right place to get to?
Here's the Kyler Murray comparison, and this perfectly encapsulates the double standard at play. Lima's colleague asks when in Kyler Murray's career was he not better than Sam Darnold? The obvious answer is just this past year. Kyler Murray was considered a better quarterback than Sam Darnold for his entire career until Darnold's breakout 2024 season with Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. But notice how that question was framed. It's designed to suggest that established veterans are always safer bets than rookie quarterbacks. Except the Browns don't have Kyler Murray available. They have the number 2 pick and access to the best quarterback prospect in this draft. And they're being told to pass on him because maybe, possibly, they could trade for a veteran who might be available. So let's talk about what's really happening here, because this goes way beyond normal draft debate. The Cleveland Browns have the 2nd overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. They have Deshaun Watson, who's been one of the worst starting quarterbacks in football since they traded for him. They have no other viable options on their roster, and they're staring at a quarterback class with one clear top prospect, Shadour Sanders from Colorado. Shadour Sanders just completed one of the most impressive seasons in college football. He threw for over 4,000 yards. He elevated a Colorado program that was 4-8 the year before he arrived to playing in meaningful games in December. He did it with an offensive line that was consistently ranked among the worst in college football. He made quick decisions under pressure, showed exceptional accuracy on intermediate routes, and demonstrated the kind of poise in the pocket that you can't teach. NFL scouts have him as a top 10 talent. Most mock drafts have him going in the top 5. This is not a reach. This is not a project. This is exactly the kind of prospect you're supposed to draft when you pick 2nd overall and need a quarterback. But if you listen to certain media voices in Cleveland, you'd think the Browns were being asked to draft a Division II quarterback in the 1st round. The campaign against Shadour Sanders has been relentless, and what makes it so obvious is the alternatives they keep suggesting. They've floated trading for Kyler Murray, who the Cardinals have no intention of moving, and who comes with a massive contract. They've suggested Kirk Cousins, who's 36 years old coming off an Achilles injury and was just benched in Atlanta. They've mentioned Anthony Richardson, who the Colts aren't trading and who has completed less than 50% of his passes in the NFL. And now they're talking about Ty Simpson, who wasn't even Alabama's full-time starter and who projects as a late 2nd or 3rd round pick. Think about that progression. They went from suggesting trades for established veterans to floating a quarterback who most draft analysts have as a day 3 prospect. The only common thread is that none of these options are Shadour Sanders. That's not draft analysis, that's an agenda. And here's what makes it particularly insidious. Every concern they raise about Shadour could be raised about literally any quarterback prospect. Is the offensive line good enough? Well, the Browns just signed 2 new starters in free agency and will likely address it again in the draft. Does he have enough weapons? They're about to have 11 picks in this draft, including 4 in the top 100. They have the resources to build around whoever they draft. Is he ready to handle the pressure? He just spent 2 years playing for Deion Sanders at Colorado with a national spotlight on him every single week. He's been preparing for this moment his entire life. But notice how those questions only get asked about Shadour. When they suggest trading for Kyler Murray, nobody asks if the Browns are ready to support a quarterback who's been injured and inconsistent. When they float Kirk Cousins, nobody questions whether a 36-year-old coming off a major injury can handle the pressure. The scrutiny is only applied in one direction. Anthony Lima admitted it himself in that clip. He said he'd rather the Browns keep building and wait another year than draft Shadour Sanders. He literally said he thinks they should roll with Deshaun Watson for another season, draft someone at another position, and hope they can find a quarterback in 2026. That's not a strategy, that's stalling. And it's stalling for one specific reason, to avoid drafting Shadour Sanders. Here's what this really comes down to. The Browns have a generational opportunity here. They have a top 2 pick in a year when they desperately need a quarterback. They have a prospect who checks every box you want: production, accuracy, decision-making, leadership, experience in big games. He's not a raw athlete you're hoping develops. He's not a small school prospect you're projecting. He's a polished, pro-ready quarterback who's been playing at the highest level of college football. This is exactly the scenario where you're supposed to draft your franchise quarterback. But the Anybody But Shadour campaign has convinced a portion of the fan base that this would somehow be a mistake. That the Browns would be better off trading multiple first-round picks for a veteran, or reaching for a lesser prospect, or just running it back with Deshaun Watson and hoping for the best. And the crazy part is that they're not even hiding it anymore. Anthony Lima said it explicitly. Anybody but Shadour Sanders, the local Amazon driver, the trash collector, anyone, as long as it's not him. This is what makes the whole thing so transparent. If they were genuinely concerned about whether Shadour was good enough, they'd be suggesting better alternatives. But they're not. They're suggesting worse alternatives. They're suggesting players who aren't available, players who aren't as good, players who don't fit the timeline. The only consistent factor is that none of them are Shadour Sanders. And here's the question nobody in that media room wants to answer. Why? What is it about Shadour Sanders specifically that makes him unacceptable? Because it's clearly not his tape, it's not his production. It's not his leadership. It's not his performance under pressure. All of those things are excellent. So what is it? What's the real reason behind the Anybody But Shadour campaign? Because from where I'm sitting, watching Anthony Lima cycle through every possible alternative from Kyler Murray to Ty Simpson, from Kirk Cousins to the local trash collector, there's only one explanation that makes sense. This isn't about evaluating quarterback prospects. This is about something else entirely, and the desperation to find any alternative, no matter how unrealistic or illogical, tells you everything you need to know about what's really driving this campaign. The Cleveland Browns are going to draft a quarterback with the 2nd overall pick, and if they let media narratives talk them out of taking the best one available because of some unnamed concern that nobody can quite articulate, they'll regret it for the next decade. Because this is how you end up with Brandon Weeden and Brady Quinn, not by drafting the wrong guy. By talking yourself out of drafting the right one. So here's my question for you. Do you think the Browns should draft Shadour Sanders with the 2nd pick? Or should they listen to the Anybody But Shadour campaign and reach for Ty Simpson, or trade assets for an aging veteran, or just run it back with Deshaun Watson and hope for a miracle? Because those are the real options here, and one of them is obviously the right answer. Let me know in the comments which path you think Cleveland should take, and if you think I'm wrong about this, tell me why, because I'd love to hear the actual case against Shadour Sanders that doesn't involve suggesting the local Amazon driver would be a better option.